David, thanks for joining me on CFO at Home. Thanks for your time today.
Hey, it's a thrill to be here with you, Vince.
So you went from being fired and nearly broke at 63 to becoming a millionaire by 69. And naturally, we want to get into the how you were able to accomplish that part of the story. But I'm curious. We just met. We had a brief conversation before hitting record, but you're obviously a very intelligent individual. You had just completed a 40-year career, I understand, at the time that you were fired. How did you find yourself in the situation, in the financial situation you were in, even after a 40-year career where I'm sure you had much success, both professionally and financially?
I think I could say that before 63, I had made just about every mistake in the book when it comes to personal finance. I did all the things: buy high, sell low, get in and out, look for the hot tips, everything. And every year it seemed like I was either where I was the year before or I was worse. And usually it was I was worse. Okay, I actually did more damage than I did good. And one thing I say is one of the smartest things I learned is just to not touch it. Just stop. Doing nothing was much better than doing what I was doing. And so that's kind of, I can talk about any mistake that there is just about out there, and I made it.
So it was not for lack of trying. There are some people who go through deep into a career and they really don't think about the end. They don't plan for it, or they're deep into their career before it even occurs to them, hey, I need to start thinking about the future and planning for the future. It seems like that light maybe had come on for you and maybe there were tactical mistakes, or was there a little bit of both?
Both. Procrastination was a big thing. I thought, oh, I'll get to it, I'll get to it, I'll get to it. But then I'd dive in and I'd read a book or listen to something, and I thought, oh, that's a great idea. And I'd jump into it, and then it didn't work out, and then I jump out of it. And I just, like I say, there was very little patience, and there was very little focus and attention. I just, I don't know. I think I was about the worst you can get in terms of investing for the future and planning for retirement.
And in a corporate environment, I assume that you had access to things like 401ks,
Oh,
that
yeah.
type of thing, as savings vehicles.
Yeah, and the thing is, some years I would invest in the 401k, and some years I'd pull back and say, no, not this year. Most of it was not this year versus doing it. Maybe if I had a super good year and all that, I might put a little bit in, but it was pathetic. It was just pathetic when I turned 63.
Okay. And it seems like the job loss was, needless to say, unexpected.
Very unexpected. It was not at all what I thought and what I planned, and it was shocking. If you want, I can tell you a little bit about that, or whatever you want to do. You tell me.
Okay. So I'm just trying to put myself in your shoes there, so to speak. I know for me in my career, I got a little bit more left in me, but I do see the end from where I'm standing.
Yeah.
So even at 63, what was your plan for the rest of your career and beyond? Because I'm trying to understand the plan that you had that got interrupted by unfortunately being let go.
I think you can best say it was this. Okay, when you don't have a plan, you're part of someone else's plan. And for 40 years, I did not have a plan. And I was part of a really lousy plan because, like I say, at 63, it was total chaos and fear. And so that was the deal. I didn't really have a plan, at least not a good one, anyways.
Okay. So when you found yourself in this situation, we're going to talk about your wealth compass. You have developed a very meticulous plan as a result of the situation you went through. I assume that was developed partially based on the situation that you found yourself in, but walk us through the steps that you took. You went from being in the situation that we just talked about to having a seven-figure net worth, if I'm
That's right.
correct about that, in 6 years.
Yeah.
So I know that elements of that are in your system, but I'm interested to hear how you personally were able to achieve that.
First of all, it was a lot of research on my own. There's so much conflicting noise out there, it seems, especially when people want your money or want to help you with your money. And so things just kept seeming wrong to me. And I made the mistakes for 40 years. So I was pretty good at making the mistakes. And I says, okay, if I don't stop that right now, it's going to be a disaster. And so I turned off the noise. over that period, I read 21 books. I listened to 13 podcasts fairly consistently. I read countless blogs and articles and newsletters, and I sifted through the garbage and I found the golden nuggets and I just pulled them out. And what I did is I said, what am I going to do with this nugget? What am I going to do with this nugget? So I says, I'm a simple person. I need to keep it simple. So that's where I decided to come up with the idea of the one-page wealth compass. And I just put those concepts on this one piece of paper. And I says, if it can't fit on the paper, I don't want to deal with it. If it's too complicated to explain to a sixth grader, I don't want it on that paper. And if it's too long and cumbersome and if there's a big theory, I don't want it on that paper. And I got it down to where it was a really tight little paper, and it kept me navigated. It kept me on the right course. I didn't make the same mistakes I'd made for 40 years, and I didn't expect what was going to happen. I really didn't think it would achieve it in that fashion. But safety was the number one. There is nothing high risk about this. Matter of fact, it's just the opposite of high. I didn't do any market timing or chasing crypto or any of that day trading. I did the exact opposite of that. It was so boring it would put you to sleep. Okay, I got my system and then I implemented it. And the crazy thing about it is when the market was down, Vince, I was thrilled. When other people were panicking and selling, I was buying more shares at discount prices. My only regret was the market wasn't down more during that 6-year period because I'd have been even in a better shape than I was. And it's just so different than how so many people do it. And what really surprised me wasn't so much what I invested in, it was the math. I'm sure you're familiar with the rule of 72. And it's
Yes.
if you're getting a 10% return, your money will double every 7.2 years or roughly every 86 months. Once I implemented my compass, my first double occurred in 30 months. My second one occurred in 13 months. My third one occurred in 29 months for an average of the three of 24 months, way less than half the 86 month, what you would think. But like I said, the secret wasn't returns. I was doing three things. One, I was investing a good portion of my income every month. Secondly, I was putting it in the right kind of investments. For me, it was low-cost index funds. I only got 2. That's it, no more. I own all the U.S. market, the total U.S. market, with a very low expense ratio, and I own everything outside the U.S. market. So in other words, I own every single publicly traded stock on the planet. The only way I get more diversified is go to another planet and see if I can invest in their thing, because there's nothing else on this planet. Like I own every stock there is. And the third thing I did was I used market volatility to work for me instead of against me. Okay, I got out of the trap of buying high and selling low. And when I did that, when I ended that, it made a big difference. Okay, so many people when they were my age, they either would get more risky because, I got to catch up, and they get so risky and then it goes in disaster, or they get so conservative, the other extreme, they can't even keep up with inflation. Okay, I took a different path, and I know my path, the numbers speak for themselves. I was able to do my portfolio twice as fast with half the risk compared to how so many people do it. And I don't know if that answered your question, but that's.
Yeah, it does. You mentioned your habit of buying high and selling low,
Yeah.
which is usually results when we're trying to do the opposite. And that's usually what happens when we're trying to time the market.
Exactly.
So clearly one of the things that you weren't doing was trying to time the market.
No.
It was
Right.
low cost index funds, which is about as conservative as you can get.
Exactly.
As far as stock investing. Can I ask the 6-year period that we're talking about here? What years are we talking about?
Okay, it was 2017 is when it started, kind of the tail end of 2017, so it wasn't
Okay.
and then add 6 years to that. I'm not sure when that ends. Just add 6 years to that, and that's the period it was. Okay, the market was.
Okay. Yeah, and the reason I was asking was 2017 to 2023.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
going to
so.
embarrass myself on
You're right. I
on
think
my own
you're
podcast
right.
here.
You're right.
Yeah,
Right.
I did that. Okay, so roughly 2017
Yeah,
to
exactly.
2023.
Yeah.
I don't have the figures in front of me, but we did have a good market during that period. So that does.
But there was a bad year in there too, because I remember, Vince,
Okay.
I was pumping money into my account. I was pumping it in. We were putting a pretty aggressive amount in there, and it never increased. As a matter of fact, it was going backwards a little bit. And at the end of the year,
Wow.
I had nothing. I had no increase.
Okay.
But you know what? Here's the difference. I wasn't panicked like before. I
Right.
was saying, hallelujah. hallelujah, I'm buying this stuff at discount prices. I love it. So many people,
Right.
they don't want to do it that way, and it's crazy. My wife was saying, honey, you're happy when the market goes down. Everyone else is upset. I go, no, you don't understand. I love it when the market goes down. When you're investing, you want the market to go down. At least that's worked for me. I don't know. Maybe other people have a different plan.
That's the basis of the whole thing. So,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to understand the time period
Yeah.
because that works in a lot of time periods. In some time periods, I was thinking particularly 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
There
But
might
see,
have been different results, but
no.
it just would have been a matter of sticking in there
Yeah.
hanging in there longer.
See,
Yeah.
I believe, Vincent, and maybe I'm naive here, but I believe if I started back then during the Great Recession, it would
Yeah.
have even been better for me because I would have been getting bargain basement prices. I wish I could have gotten in that time period. 'Cause I really do. And I tell you what, I've already done another double. Okay, since then it took me 28 months. My doubles are 7-figure doubles, so
Oh wow.
they
Yeah. Yeah.
exponentially grow. It's
Yeah.
just like
Once that snowball
yeah,
really gets
yeah,
to a certain
yeah.
level, when it rolls over, it really rolls over.
Oh yeah,
But the great thing is you have the mentality that could have gotten you through a 2007, 2008, because realistically, you could have seen the same results, but you would have had to have had the patience to get there. You're
yeah,
absolutely right. Those people who had the intestinal fortitude to invest in 2007, 2008 are very glad they did right now, but they had to have the determination, they had to have the discipline to stick to it. It seemed like you had gone through enough life
yeah,
where at 63, you had plenty of experience in what not to do and
yeah,
what didn't work.
yeah,
And it sounds like that instilled discipline in you
yeah,
that would take you through a period of 2017 or 2023
yeah,
or 2007 to 2017
yeah.
because you have the discipline.
But what gave me the discipline, though, Vince, was understanding it. It was reading the 21 books, listening to 13 podcasts, and putting it on one piece of paper on a compass so I could stay focused and navigate it, and not the shiny object or the cable news network. I love to watch the business section on cable news networks, but not for any advice. I would never take their advice. I just think it's entertaining. I just find it so funny.
Yeah.
I love the Warren Buffett's deal on forecasters. He goes, forecasters, it's interesting about forecasters. You learn a lot about the forecaster with their forecasts, but you learn nothing about the market. And that's so true. And when they talk on TV, my wife, she says, honey, why are you laughing? I go, because this guy thinks he can predict the future. It's okay.
They should stamp every one of those things for entertainment
Yeah,
purposes
I agree.
only.
And that's only.
There should literally be a disclaimer before those start.
I agree. And can I tell you one more thing about the recession?
Absolutely.
I didn't understand this during the recession. This is way before 2017. Right. But a friend of mine who I worked with, he got a tip to get out of the market right before it crashed. And I thought to myself, man, you are the luckiest guy on the planet. And he did. He got out of it. But then I saw him like 12 years later. And I asked him, I says, who was that guru that gave you that tip? He goes, oh, his information. He got lucky. That time it was, I go, so when did you get back in the market? He goes, I'm not back in the market yet. Oh, you're not back. How could you not be back in the market? You lost all that. It would have been much better never to left the market. I didn't say that to him, obviously.
Yeah. But this guru
Yeah.
was the stop clock who's right twice a day at most.
Exactly.
And that points out one of the essential things about market timing and what makes it so difficult, I would say almost impossible to do on any consistent basis is you not only have to know when to get out, you have to know when to get back in.
And that's impossible. Both those ends are just, at least for me, I'm not that smart.
Yeah. So the actual investing that you were doing during that 6-year period, you lost your job. Did you find another job that was giving you the actual dollars to invest during that time?
No. Here's what happened. Can I just tell you the brief story here?
Yeah.
When I got fired, okay, it was like the worst day of my life, okay, until it became the best day later on. But going home, driving home was even worse because I had to tell my wife of 30 years what happened, and she did not deserve the mess I threw our family into. So what happened was, after 2 months of dead-end job searching, I decided to take a huge risk, and I went to work as an independent sales agent No straight commission, no salary, no safety net. Okay, the first months were brutal. I was cold calls, constant rejection, rookie mistakes. Okay, but after a while, it was just rejection after rejection. Looking back now, I can say those rejections are what gave me that resistance, gave me the mental muscles to work through it. Because after 10 months of grinding, Vince, I achieved an incredible milestone. I was suddenly making more money than my good paying corporate salary. And for a moment, I felt like I made it. But then I realized, wait a minute, we haven't saved hardly anything. Okay, we literally were 2 years away from being broke. If we drained all of our investments and all of our retirement and all of our emergency fund, we would have been broke by 65. Okay, so that's how close it was to disaster for us. And that's when I says, wait a minute, I can't just keep doing the same thing. I have no more runway to waste and to risk. That's when I really dove in and started studying and developing this compass because my back was against the wall. I had no other option.
So let's talk about the compass a little more. I've actually got it on the screen here to my
Sure.
left. It is 9 trail markers to financial freedom. This is actually a PDF that we'll talk about later that anyone listening can get for free.
Yeah.
To the left, it's 9 trail markers to financial freedom. To the right, it's 5 North Star principles. Talk to us a little bit about those two elements and
Yeah.
how they work together in the compass.
Yeah, first of all, the 9 trail markers, it's a step-by-step approach on what comes first, what comes second, what you really need to do. And that's really good. But sometimes you run into things that are just not part of that process. Things just pop up out of wherever. And that's where I got in trouble. So that's why I have the 5 North Star principles, because these are guiding principles that keep you out of trouble when there's something that doesn't fit into the trail markers. You just go to your principles. They're 5 simple principles. And you say, wait a minute, that doesn't fit with the principle. Okay, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. And it just keeps you safe. Compass is not just about making money safely, but it's also staying out of trouble, which I was a pro at, okay, for 40 years. And so I needed both of those. I needed to know how to invest and grow, but I also needed how to stay out of trouble when those shiny objects appeared out of nowhere and they seemed too good to be true, that kind of thing.
Because just looking at it, it seems like the trail markers, and just as an example, I'll read a couple of them here:
Yeah.
career and income success, a smart protection fund, wealth accumulation. These are the things that we talk about a lot on this podcast, which are more the practical, tactical thing.
Yeah.
It seems like the North Star principles are more guardrails,
Yeah, that's a good
so
point.
to speak, as you're walking down that road. So, for example, the live on less than you earn, excuse me, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Live on less than you earn. I particularly love verify before trust, because one of the things that you hit on there is really one of my things that I preach on a lot, almost to the extent of making myself obnoxious to people. And it has to do with the way that I interpret this is when you're dealing with financial professionals and having some idea of how they're making their money.
Yeah.
It's obvious that as a investor in index funds, you are very cost efficiency in your investing is important, because
Yeah.
the basic idea of a mutual fund is, excuse me, a index fund is, yeah, you're more or less buying the market,
Yep.
whatever index. If it's a S&P 500 index fund, you're basically mirroring the S&P 500.
Yep.
So because of the nature of it, there's less management that goes on, and therefore the management fees are less. So you're more or
Yep.
less just buying the market. And
And less turnover too, less taxes there too.
yeah, so I'm particularly intrigued by that North Star. Talk to us a bit about, just give us your thoughts about fees and the importance of being efficient with our investing.
Yeah, people are paying, I believe, tiny termite-sized fees, but they're quietly inflicting termite-like destruction on their portfolios. I do an analysis in the book, and it talks about 2 people and how they both invest the same amount of money every month, same income, same age for their entire 40-year career. One person ends up with a 8.4 $5 million portfolio. One ends up with a $4.2 million portfolio. Same market returns, same market conditions, same contributions. The difference is the fees. And I show you the math. Okay, it's not rocket science there. And they just do so much destruction on portfolios. And when I saw that, I says, wow, that's a big deal. That's not a little thing. And then the taxes, when you take that takes a huge, much bigger chunk. They seem so tiny, like 1% or 0.5% or whatever. This seems so little. But when you take it over a time period, it's huge. It's like a mortgage. The mortgage seems, oh, that's not that much. But when you take it over 30 years, you're paying more than you paid for the house, the mortgage. The same thing with the investments. It doesn't magically change because it's an investment. It's the same thing. So anyways, that's a big deal.
And if you just do the math on it,
Yeah.
that becomes apparent. The other thing, even as I've been going through this stage of life where I'm transitioning from managing my own investments to at least feeling as though I need to get a little bit more advice as I draw closer to actually using these dollars to live on. And I've been evaluating a lot of these professionals. And you mentioned the 1% fee, for example. 1% doesn't sound like it's that much. And that's a standard in terms of if you're going to go to a financial planner, assets under management, they're going to charge you 1% of whatever they're managing. Doesn't sound like a lot. But do the math and you over time you can see how much that is. Not only that, but there's situations where I was having conversations with people who wanted to charge me 1% to manage my assets and buy mutual funds and ETFs that were managed by other people, and the fees were built into that. So I'm paying you a fee to buy something that is managed by another group of people who are also charging fees. It's insane. And when you get, I'm finding that when you get to a certain age, these guys start coming out of the woodwork.
Oh yeah. It's just Warren Buffett. Remember the helpers? He's talking about his newsletter. The helpers, they all want to help you, but they all want their little fee. Their little And by the time all these little fees are adding up like crazy, and that's where you get between a portfolio of 8.5 versus 4.2. That's real. Those are real numbers. I show it in the book. It's real math. It's not like hocus pocus stuff. It's really true. But I say I'm not against advisors though, because Vince, you probably know people who need an advisor. Because when that market goes crazy, they need a steady hand to calm them down. And if they don't have something like a compass or they don't have the understanding of it, so I'm not totally against advisors. They're just not for me, but they could be for other people. I'm not saying they're bad.
And you're absolutely right. It's just a matter of making sure that you're getting what you're paying for. That's not something you feel like you need. Even where I landed, I need some assistance. I would like someone to be there, but not the 1% concierge, set it and forget it. Every 6 months we'll meet and I'll tell you how you're doing type. That's just not me. I'm a little bit more hands-on. Now, there are some people who need that, but just make sure that what you're paying for, that you're not paying for too much for your situation.
I agree, and I think for anything I've seen is the hourly advisor who pays you pay him by the hour, like you pay an accountant or an attorney. Those guys seems like a really good way to look at it because it doesn't go on forever. The fees end, or you can control the fees. There's no control with that 1%. You don't even notice 1% because they just take it out of the account. Or when you have to actually write a check, you notice it and you make sure you're getting your money's worth. That's what I think, anyways.
So it's obvious that being conscious of fees that was one of the key things that helped you accomplish what you accomplished during those 6 years. The more comprehensive answer to that question is laid out in the Wealth Compass, the one-page Wealth Compass. Mm-hmm. But in the time we have remaining, if there are, let's say, 2 important elements that you could share with our audience before we wrap it up, what would be 2 other important elements, specifically, let's say, for a person who is in a situation where they're getting started, at least in their eyes, late? Let's say you are 50 or 60 and it's like, ooh, I need to really get serious about this thing. If you were just to give 2 quick tips, what would those tips be?
One it would be is every dollar not paying interest can be deployed to earn interest for you, which I'm saying is I believe strongly in getting out of debt. I just think that I'd rather be focused on my money earning as opposed to paying. And I'm not into this arbitrage deal where, oh, but I can invest here and I can make this and all kind of thing, because the investments don't always go that way. And when things get bad, they get really bad fast, okay? And sometimes that turns a problem into a tragedy, a real tragedy. And so I think another one is to get out of debt. And there's different people say the snowball or the avalanche. I don't care how you do it, just get out of debt. Have a plan and stick with it and get it. That's so critical to be earning interest, not paying. I really believe that's a key one.
Yeah, because I love it when you hear these discussions. It's like, why would I pay off a 5% mortgage, or why would I pay down this low interest debt when I can invest in the stock market averages 7% or 8% or whatever?
Yeah.
What you're not factoring in is the risk
Yep.
that's involved
That's it.
in the stock market versus it's almost like paying down that debt is almost like getting a risk-free return
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
that investment of paying it off. So
Yeah.
once you adjust that for risk,
Yeah.
it starts to look a little different.
It does. And I'm not that, I have to keep it simple. That's one, my whole point is set it and forget it. And if I'm paying off one and invest, and I'm trying, it's too much. I just don't want to, I want to focus on life, not investing all. I want to have fun. I literally spend maybe 5 minutes a month now with my investments because it's pretty simple to do. Just put it in the, my ETFs and just go out and play or go out and work or whatever it is. But you asked for two. And can I give you the second one then?
Absolutely.
A person's paycheck is a powerful muzzle, excuse me, in terms of voice of truth. I believe you got to be very careful when people are giving you financial advice. I'm not saying that all people giving advice is bad. That's truly not true. But there's always bad apples in every profession, and the financial world of investing is not exempt from bad apples. And so I just be careful, because I always like to say, follow the money. How's he getting paid, and how is that impacting the advice he's giving you? And that's something that's really, I think, for me anyways, very important.
And from a person who dived into, I believe you said 21 books when you really started your journey,
Yeah.
uh, how important do you believe self education is in order to be discerning about the professionals that you engage?
Critical. As a matter of fact, that's why when I'm working out every morning, or when I'm in the car commuting or whatever it is, go to see a client or whatever, I have podcasts like yours on. I'm not, because I feel like I like to multitask, okay, that make it easy. And I constantly want to feed Benjamin Franklin said the best investment is education, self investment in yourself. And I believe the returns on that are tremendous. And that's one of the secrets of me in 6 years doing what I did. It wasn't just dumb luck at all. That was very calculated, very understanding what's going on here, and executing it in a very logical, planned way, which I summarized on that one page. But that is critical. I'm just.
And there's so much information out there, so much, I believe, quality information in so many different formats. The intimidation factor that people feel, I think the bar on that is lower than ever, simply because, hey, if you are a real nerd in this stuff, I've got books over here that would probably bore 80% of people stiff. It is beach reading for me.
Yeah.
So if that's how you're made, that's how you're made.
Yeah.
But if you're not made that way, there are all types of podcasts for every
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
There are books written at every level. If you don't have time to read the book, get it in an audio book. There's just so much information out there that there's no reason to be intimidated.
No.
Any adult who has gotten this far in life and worked a job and raised kids and done all the things, all the life things, you've already shown that you have the intelligence to do this thing.
Yeah.
You just have to get just the requisite amount of education
Yeah.
to be discerning when
Yeah.
you're actually engaging with these professionals.
Yeah. I agree. Totally agree.
So David, I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Me
We
too.
could keep this rolling a lot longer
I agree.
than our limited time. But before I let you go, we have talked about the one-page wealth compass. You also have a book that's available that elaborates even more on these principles. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, what I did is when I wrote the book, I read it more for myself at the beginning. I says, I want to get all this stuff together and I want to have it on one page. But if I want some more details on a principle on that page, I want to be able to go to that chapter and say, okay, I need that help on that area. And so that's kind of how the book was put together. And now that I've made the money and I'm financially independent, I just said to myself, so I was given a lifeline with that compass. Okay, it was a gift, and I says, I've made it to safety now. I'd like to share it with other people and not be selfish about it. And I'm not looking for money. You can't buy anything on my site except the book. Or you get the book, but the compass is free. The blogs are free. Everything is free because it's just not a money thing for me. It's just a passion project for me to help other people who are suffering or who may suffer. They don't realize they're going to suffer, and to help them get out of that deal. So that's kind of why I wrote the book and how it all developed. And it's being very well received on Amazon. I'm just shocked that the first week out it hit that, what do they call it, hot pick, #1 hot pick or whatever my category. And the reviews I'm just really impressed with. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just saying I'm just grateful that people got it. They go, okay, this makes sense. And it's simple terms. It's not complicated. That's what I want, that kind of thing.
And again, even before we hit record, we were talking about this. Yeah. And you designed this PDF, this free PDF, to be everything that a person would need. It gives the secret sauce. The book is there if you want to dig in a little deeper, but you're offering this information at any price point. The first price point being free, right. The second price point being the very small investment in the book. So again, obviously a passion. As one passionate person on this subject to another, I can tell when a person has the passion, and you clearly do.
Thanks.
So, David, again, I really appreciate your time. This is a story and an angle that I don't know if we have hit on the podcast here before. Being able to talk to a person who got started late in the game on this and was able to achieve financial independence. I want any listener who is sitting in a similar position as you were when you were 63 to listen to this very carefully. If David could do it, you can do it. David has the resources. I'm here for you. You can do it.
And you don't have to wait and don't wait to 63, 23, 33, 43. Those are better. That's even better.
Exactly. Because if you can accomplish what you accomplished in 6 years, yeah. Imagine if you had started, in your 30s, in your 20s.
Even in my 50s, even in my 50s.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But David, thank you for your passion. Thank you for your time. Thanks for being on CFO at Home today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you.